Hey guys, welcome to the video. My name is Ben and I'm an eBay reseller, and I primarily focus on selling action figures, particularly wrestling figures, because that's something that I also myself have an interest in. Um, when you deal in toys, they quite often when you deal in toys, they'll quite often come to you in condition that is less than desirable for selling on. You know, quite often I'll be buying bundles from eBay of like families and whatnot, the people that just want to get rid of things, whatever condition they're in. So they might be dusty, they might be dirty, they might be mucky, they might have marks all over them. And in this video, I'm going to try and talk about how to sort out all of those issues, because I know there's a lot of videos where people have talked about doing fig baths or how to clean your action figures or how to get marks off them. In this video, I'm hoping to bring all of my advice together in one place and help you clean figures in all sorts of ways. So the first thing I would say is you might want to take some before and after pictures if they are really dirty, just for your own amusement, but that's really up to you. So perhaps the first thing I would suggest is just giving the figure a wipe with, any kind of disinfectant wipe. As you can see, this JBL figure is pretty dirty. And this all kind of looks like, surface removable dirt, like actual mud or something. So I'm just going to try giving him a wipe. So the benefits to this is that it's quick. You do get the majority of the work done. The disadvantages really is that, it takes the patience of sitting there, especially if you've got a lot of figures to get through. It takes the patience of sitting there just wiping them down. But yeah, literally just, simple as it is, just give them a wipe over. Everywhere that's dirty, this will get the majority of the dirt straight off. I can't really say much more about that. That's pretty simple. And as you can see, or hopefully see here, the dirt is now gone off his face. Still a little bit on his legs though, which you can hopefully see, which is why you might want to go straight to just doing a fig bath to get some of the harder stuck on dirt. If you keep going with a wipe, you'll probably get it, but it might just be easier to do a fig bath, and that is my next tip. So, if you'll excuse my disgusting sink for a short while, I'm going to show you how to do a fig bath. Now, this works really well for cleaning up figures, and it is very satisfying, particularly if you have some quite dirty figures. This won't remove most marks from the figures, we'll get into that a little bit later, but it will clean dirt and dust, etc., and it won't clean the sort of rubber stickiness that you get on Jakks-Pacific wrestling figures. So the first thing you want to do is run some hot water. You don't want it to be too hot for 3 reasons. You don't want to damage the figures, like removing any paint or anything like that. It will loosen the limbs a little bit, so try and avoid working them too much. But mostly they'll go back to normal if it's not too hot and overhandled. This is, people do use hot water to loosen the joints of the figures. So it is not impossible to make them then permanently loose by overhandling them while they are, in boiling hot water. And the final point is, don't scald yourself. So we're just going to run some hot water. Plug in, obviously. And next we're going to stick in some washing up liquid. I would advise, it's a little bit dark in here, isn't it? There we go, that's loads better. Why was it that dark in the first place? I would advise using something very neutral like lemon or lime, especially if you're going to be doing this often. You don't want something like orange, because then it's just going to be like on your hands all the time when you're doing this. Don't put too much in, don't put too little in. It can be helpful a little bit later on, but yeah, obviously the more there is in there, the more it's going to sort of clean stuff, but yeah. On the note of using hot water, you can use rubber gloves, of course, if you would prefer. That's absolutely fine. But yeah, once you've got the sink nice and filled, you just want to start bobbing some figures in there. So here's a few I've been meaning to do for a while. Get this Jimmy Wang Yang I've been wanting to do a custom of in there. I think these have a smoky smell. No, maybe not. Maybe it's a different load that have a smoky smell, but yeah, we'll just get them in there anyway. Smoke smell is something I do intend to also cover in this video that I might have forgotten to mention earlier. Yeah, we'll just get all of those guys in there. Now I'm going to put a couple more in there, but I don't need to do that on camera. I'd say you only really need to do this if there is a lot of dirt on the figures, but if you want to be clean, especially in these COVID times, it might be worth always fig bathing you guys, I suppose. It's one of those things where these things are dirtier than you think. I think you can fit about 20 figures in my sort of sink, so, if you've got a bigger sink than this, it's not a big sink, then, you can fit in quite a few guys. And once you guys are in there, you're just going to leave them for a little while and let them have a soak. So after they've been soaking in there for a little bit of while, you want to take one of them out. I'm going to go with Actually, I was going to take the Rock, but I'm not going to take him because he could do with a bit more cleaning, actually. He probably needs longer in there than the rest. Let's take, where's Jimmy Wang Yang? Let's take him. Let's tank all the way to the bottom. There he is. Okay, so we're going to take a Jimmy Wang Yang, and we're going to give him a good toothbrushing. Now, try not to take a toothbrush that's, first of all, the one you're still using, but one you've used in the past either, like a used toothbrush, you know, that like you started using a new one. Don't use an old one because residue on it might damage the figures. So you want to sort of brush gently on the figure, and what I tend to do is I tend to just take a bit of bubbles on here as well. And you want to tend to just brush quite gently on the figure. You can probably put a little bit of elbow grease in, but you know, you never can be too careful with paint. I hate needing to clean around people's eyes and stuff like that. You know, you are fine. Like, I've never had any problems with it, but it still gives me anxiety. You know, paint is paint at the end of the day. But you want to just go through and give them a good brush all over. I don't think this Jimmy Wang really needs... A lot of these figures just need sort of, you know, soaking really. But yeah, you know, you can notice little deposits of dirt and stuff on people, get in the joints good and stuff, and just, you know, give them a good brushing around, really. And you want to just do that with each one, like, especially if you can visibly see, like, dirt on the figure, you want to just give it a good brushing over in that general area. But basically, you want to do this with every one. As I say, if they just have sort of surface damage, if they're just dusty or something, then you probably can skip this part, but, you know, it does help, especially if they're, like, particularly dirty or if they've got, like, a smell to them or anything like that. If you do give them a brush and you've cleaned them up a little bit and then you think that they could do with a little bit longer in there, just chuck them back in, why not? I just want to do another little bit of demonstration on brushing with this figure of the Rock, just because he was a bit dirtier, so I wanted to sort of show you. Camera doesn't seem to want to lock on him though, so that's annoying. So as you can hopefully see there is a bit of red in the kind of grooves of his abs. So what I'm just going to do here, as I said before, is take some bubbles and just scratch over there. And hopefully we're going to be able to get that off. Sometimes with things like this you can't, you know, kids love staining the figures with blood and stuff like that. So sometimes it can be a bit of a pain. Sometimes maybe if you just stuck him back in for a bit longer, maybe you could get away. He's got some on his eye there as well. His eyebrows and stuff are actually already coming away, so I don't really feel too worried about scraping away more of it. Yeah, this guy, I think this guy's stained, to be honest. I don't think there's much saving him, but we'll leave him in there a bit longer anyway. And hopefully that'll come up eventually. So once you've done all that, you probably want to take a towel somewhere that's out of the way of people. You know, I quite often have to lay these on the floor somewhere to have enough space. So, you know, try and make sure it's out of the way of other people. And just leave them there on a towel for like an hour or so, or a couple of hours. Because although the water, like the surface water on them is like relatively, you know, it's going to dry relatively quickly. And you could literally just towel it off if you want. But there's going to be water in their joints and stuff as well. That's going to take a little bit longer to come out and or dry out. So we can just leave those guys there for a while. You can towel them off if you want to, but I think it's easier to just leave them for a bit. And then we'll come back to them a little bit later on. When you come back to them, you want to just give them a quick looking over. Make sure you're kind of happy with how they look. If it's still a bit dusty or a bit dirty, because it can literally, like, you can wet it and you won't be able to see like the dirt or dust anymore. And then you'll think it's fine, and then when it dries, it's still there. And then, you know, you end up chucking it back in. So, you know, just give them a look over once you're done. And if you're not happy with it, just chuck them in again. If not, you know, just leave them for a little while to get all the water out of the joints, and then, you know, do whatever you're going to do with them. And then your final step, first of all, I just want you can't really see that well on camera, but I want you to just look through the bubbles here at the dirt in the bottom of the sink. These weren't even particularly dirty figures, but yeah, you can just see all the crap. And what you guys can see is nothing compared to like what I can see either. So yeah, you just want to take a quick look at what you've just cleaned off. Get the Rock out of the way now. He's probably fine. And what I would say usually is give it a quick, because usually, you know, you might have bubbles all over. Give a quick look around or feel around in there just to make sure there's nothing came out. Like, for example, the Jack Specific figures, when their arms are loose, there can be bits of plastic inside the joint that comes out. And you know, if you ever wanted to glue that joint back together, I don't know how successfully you'd ever be at doing that, but you know, you don't want to lose that bit of plastic in that case. I don't really think it makes that much difference, but you know, it never hurts to just have a quick look, make sure you're not washing away something important. And yeah, okay, then you're just going to pull the plug, I suppose. Now, smoke smell. Bad one. Very horrible to smell, very horrible to get rid of. How do we get that nicotine smell off of our action figures? Well, there is no great way. There's no immediate way, there is no quick way. It is just an awkward situation trying to get rid of it. Unfortunately, sellers are never going to admit to having a smoky home. So you're never going to be able to, you know, you'll see smoke-free home all the time. You're never going to see someone say, unfortunately, these come from a smoky home. So that'll be a nice surprise for you when they turn up. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to take a plastic bag. Apparently the best ones we had, for example, are these IKEA Ziploc ones. And your action figure, let's pretend this JBL's covered in the stuff. Put them in there. I don't know whether this would work better individually or with like multiple figures in one place, but then you're just going to take your bicarbonate of soda and pour some in there. I'm not actually going to do that because I don't actually need to do this, but you get the point. Put bicarbonate of soda in there. Apparently dryer sheets work too. Don't really have any of those to hand as an example. Now here's the bad part. We're going to seal that up however you want to do it. Just make sure that bag is nice and nicely sealed. Apparently these don't clip together too well. So there we go. So we're going to seal that up, pretend he's covered in bicarbonate of soda. And here's the bad part. We're going to put that away for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I'm not even joking. And then in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we're going to take him out again and reassess the situation. Make sure you take him out, give him a clean, maybe run him through the sink, dry him off, because when they're wet, they will cover the smoke smell. So if you put them through a fig bath, if you fig bath the figure, it will help with the smell, but it won't get rid of it. And then when you dry them off again, like you might wash it, and when it's wet, you'll be like, it's gone. And then when you dry it, it'll still be there. You're going to wash him, dry him, and reassess. Give him another sniff, because there's the really sad part, is it might not have even worked. And in that case, you're going to want a different bag, a different bicarb. It'll probably be better. And then you want to just chuck him back in again for another however many weeks. There really is no better way to get rid of it, apart from one, but it only really replaces the smell. And it's an idea I had basically. If you keep incense, if you burn incense, and you have like a cupboard or something where you store that, you will notice the inside of that cupboard will very soon just stink of incense for the rest of its life. So that is what I do. I put my stuff in the cupboard with the incense. I think it's a lot easier to, if you're selling it on, it's a lot easier to sell to someone, this figure might smell of incense, than this figure might reek of smoke. It does replace the smell, and sometimes, I wouldn't say this all the time, but sometimes you will notice that there is no smell to the thing at all anymore. But again, that will take a long time, just putting it in the cupboard with some incense and just leaving it there for a while. You don't need to burn the incense, just passively the smell will permeate into it. That is probably the best tip I could give. That is what I tend to do. Luckily, all the bundles I come across on eBay, I don't come across smoky figures an awful lot, which is surprising, but it is a massive pain in the ass. Yeah, anything with a smell, the only thing I could really advise is sealing it up somewhere with some incense. As I say, it's still going to have a smell to it, but incense is a lot easier to get away with, I think, than smoky smell. And it can get rid of it, but don't hold me to that. It doesn't always. Quite often it just replaces it with incense smell, but it's better than nothing. I say it is a step in the right direction. And now the final thing that I would like to talk through, if you would ignore my messy and unshaven desk now rather than my sink, is removing marks. Now this is a very easy process, but it can be a bit of a pain, and it can take a while. There are some stains that you just can't get out. Like, for example, this Darren Young figure here, we've got some like pen marks here on his knee pad. I've been completely unable to remove them. Some stains, or some marks rather, they'll look like you can't get rid of them, but over time they will wear down and you will eventually get rid of them. But that is where this struggle comes in, you know, because it can be tedious and a little bit of a pain to just be rubbing over the same thing again, especially when you're not even sure whether it's actually having much of a difference or not. But essentially, we're going to take a figure with some marks on it, and we're going to take an eraser. Now, this is a pretty well-known secret. Doesn't really matter what type of eraser, they seem to all work. At the end of the day, you're basically just creating friction between the object and the figure to try and remove something between that. So yeah, so we got a lovely, like, nice black mark there to get rid of, and hopefully we're going to be able to get rid of it. As I say, it doesn't always work 100%, but here's hoping. This is actually how I discovered that I needed glasses as well, by the way. When I first started reselling, cleaning DVDs, like giving DVDs a wipe over and removing marks from figures and whatnot and giving those a wipe over, and my eyes started going funny, and I realized, you know, I need a sight test. Turns out I need glasses for when I'm doing stuff like this, where there's like a small object to focus on or something like right up close to my face. So yeah, all right. So anyway, yeah, we're just literally just going to rub over it. And as you can see there, it's already going away. And this is another pain to it, is you do end up with these eraser shavings all over the place, including inside the joints of the figures. And sometimes you can see that it starts going away, like it has done there. But if I just take them away here for a second, you may be able to see that there is a very small mark still there. Maybe if I move them closer, you can see there's a very, very small mark still there. And that might be the real pain. Like, getting rid of that tiny little remaining part can be like the hardest part sometimes. But no, it looks like we got rid of it pretty well there. What else we got? We got one on the back there, the back leg. So again, we're just going to take this and have a little go on that. This is another thing that can be a pain, is actually like being able to get into the figure. Don't want to damage the joints or anything. This one looks like it's not coming up as well. Oh, but yeah, it is going. We'll get there in the end. But again, it can be quite tedious and can be quite a pain, especially when you can't tell if it's even coming off or not. I thought I'd have a go over the rock as well, just to show you that it's not always necessarily the end if we can't get these marks off. Because obviously this was like pen or something. So this was obviously like an organic, like liquid. So you would think that the main way you would get rid of that is by fig bathing it. But, you know, you never know, you may be able to remove it with an eraser. So I thought I'd give that a go, just to show you it's not necessarily over if the fig bath doesn't work. The problem with this is the ab joints can be a very painful and difficult joint to get into. That's why I like these erasers where they're a bit flat, so you can kind of try and dig in there. This isn't necessarily going to work either, but hopefully maybe it will. I think in this case we're just trying to salvage this figure as best we can to sell on, because there's not much we're going to be able to do about the chunks out of his head. Yeah, I don't think that's really made much difference. I could try going over the bit on his eye, I guess. Sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you can erase like actual dirt rather than marks. No, it looks that stuff's staying there for good. But yeah, oh well, never mind. You know, that is another. I thought I'd just show you guys that is another thing that you can do. You know, if you've got stains that you can't get rid of. Okay, so I guess that's more or less everything I had to say in this video. Please do let me know if you have any questions that I didn't cover in this video. You know, I'll hopefully be able to answer those. If you did enjoy this video, please do like, comment, and subscribe, and check out all of the videos that I have on YouTube already, including wrestling figure animations, figure unboxings, reselling videos, and stuff like that. And yeah, I hope this was helpful to you. And one final note, guys, if you have just done a fig bath at my instruction, don't forget to wash out your sink, because oh my god, how minging is it? Oh, the dirt on these figures, man. Alright, thank you for watching, and goodbye.